Every journey starts with a moment. That magic moment that marks the first step in what will be a trajectory that will really change the course of your life for the rest of your life. Now, here's what's really interesting about those moments, those magic moments. You so often don't realize that they are when they happen. It's only when you've been on your journey for a while and you look back and you can say, right there was the moment that everything changed for me. Now, here's the interesting thing about these moments. These first steps in your journey into a whole new way of living in so very many ways. So often, students would ask me, what do I need to do to create these? And I would say to them, you don't find them, they find you. I would like to say that my magic moment was lightning from a clear blue sky or a near-death experience. Mine was the exact opposite. I was driving down the highway, minding my own business, and then in a moment, everything changed. As I said, my car didn't roll, there wasn't a fiery crash. It was just a little dip in the highway. When I drove over it with my car, it bottomed out. And I felt a little tweak in my hip, my right hip, just a little tweak. Within a very short period of time, that little tweak manifested into an injury that really consumed my every waking moment. Here's what's really interesting. How quickly our life, our choices, our thinking can orbit around our label. Whether it's a physical label, whether it's a physical diagnosis, whether it's an emotional one, whether it's a trauma. I mean, pick your label. But what's interesting is how deceptively easy we can start to identify with that, and in many ways, forget who we are. That's what happened to me. It wasn't what I wanted to do in a day. It was what was my back going to allow me to do today. It wasn't, was I comfortable? Because I never really was. It was, what was the amount of least discomfort that I could maybe hope to attain? And I tried everything. I tried everything known to man to try and get some resolution from this. And I couldn't. If I did, it was partial and it was very temporary. Then a friend of mine, I worked at an industrial facility. A friend of mine who was a mechanical engineer, actually, had read a book about one of the variety of healing modalities that are out there. And he says, you know, Russ, he says, I've read this book. Let me come over and try this thing. Now, here's the thing. I was brought up in United Church. And back then, everything related to, well, I don't know what words I would have used back then, but energy healing, meditation, any of those type of things, man, they would send you straight to hell. And so I always would tell my students, I'm not a skeptic. I was the furthest thing from a skeptic in that I didn't even think about any of this stuff because you weren't supposed to think about any of this stuff because, again, it's from down there. That's where the stuff is coming from, is down there. When you have nothing left to lose, it's in those moments that the doorway begins to open for the magic moment where everything changes. Little did I know this was mine. So I figured, well, I got nothing left to lose. So I said, come over and try. So he did. He came in, brought his book. The injury was in my lower back and my right hip. So he, remember this so clearly. So he sat down, I stood in front of him. He rested his hands on my hips, and he's reading his damn book. And he says, okay, I'm gonna do this, gonna do this, gonna do this. Okay, sure, okay. And within about maybe 10 minutes, I felt what was like waves of heat flowing up from the floor over me, and I was like moving, right? Like I was having an experience. It wasn't just a thought process. I was having an physical experience. So he finished up and off he went. Now I didn't notice anything different at the time. But later on that night, when I was in the position of release discomfort, I noticed all the muscles in my right leg, which is where the damage was very slowly but very powerfully contracting and releasing and contracting and releasing. This went on for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then it stopped. The next day I woke up, I felt noticeably better. So he came over the following week, gave me another treatment. That night, I had the same thing. Contract, release, contract, release. This time it was all the muscles in my lower back. I woke up the next day, I felt noticeably better. From that moment on, in a very short period of time, my back just healed up. Now, I couldn't explain what happened. I didn't even really have an understanding of why. But what I couldn't deny was I was in pain, and then I wasn't.